State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Kevin McCluskey and Laura Bradburn. Never in doubt, Laura.
Yeah, never in doubt. The one positive I can say from that first half, apart from obviously the goal, which we'll go on to, is I was right to slag off Maeda because it obviously brings out the best in him. He was probably the best player for us in that first half. Sometimes I wonder whether it's because we target the play down that side so much that he then sees so much of the ball, or I'm not sure what it is, but certainly anything of danger that we had in that first half was coming from Maeda, and it definitely proved to be the case with the goal as well. But other than that, a very, very flat first half with neither team really causing either team a lot of problems.
I'm looking at my notes here, Kevin, and I'm glad and delighted that we scored a goal because there wasn't actually much to talk about, to be fair. It would have been asking why and how can we change this. But the goal came, special mention for Bernabe during the build-up to this goal, because it was a tremendous pass that released Maeda. I agree with Laura. I think Maeda's looked like our most dangerous player. I think it's a very interesting tussle that he's having with Mayo at back, down the left-hand side. The cross had to be good. And by the way, up to that point, I don't think our crossing had been good enough. And Jota really wanted to get on the end of it. And I think it's given the whole game a different complexion. And it's given the second half a different complexion, thankfully, Kev.
It absolutely has, aye. Because up until 2 minutes before half-time, the three of us, you'd see us, we're all sitting there with faces tripping ourselves at that first half. And we're coming on, and it's a completely different podcast if we don't get that goal. My notes in this half, usually I've got at least a full A4 sheet of paper full of notes in every half, and this is I've had to use really big capital letters to try and fill up about a quarter of a page because it's been that poor, really. I don't know. I thought we started the game pretty well, actually. The intensity was there for the first 10-15 minutes, and I thought my 5-0 prediction wasn't as daft as all that after all. And then the next 30 minutes, kind of thought maybe that was a bit over the top to think 5-0. We've lacked penetration in the midfield. We need a number 10. Absolutely, that's the thing that's been missing for these kind of games, and we're up against the stodgy defences. We don't have anyone actually in the middle of the park that does what Jota does out wide. Mm-hmm. I think Haksabanovic can be that guy, but obviously he's not available today. But we miss somebody in the midfield, a Rogic type, to just unlock defences. But what a pass that was by Bernabe at the end. My note on that one is it's Taylor-esque, because he's obviously been watching young Greg in training and learning from him. That was an unbelievable pass. It's exactly the ball that Maeda thrives on, in that kind of dangerous area between full-back and centre-back. Only one winner getting to it. And when he puts it in, for me, the highlight of that was actually seeing the two players attacking it.
Yes.
Because so often we see that ball coming in and there's either one player going for it or no one goes for it. And
Aberdeen was an example, Kevin. Remember, we did the charity weekender and we were so frustrated with that throughout the game.
We could have had that game out of sight several times over if we just attacked the front post. And to see the two of them going for it and both being committed to winning it, it didn't matter who got the touch in it; it was going in. Mm-hmm. So that's the highlight, and that's what Ange wants to see. And I think he'll be going in though at half time, probably with the "it's still 0-0" team talk, because it's that one moment that's changed us for us. It came a little bit too late, but I don't think he'll be happy with what he's seen for the 44.5 minutes it went before it.
Well, it's obvious that some of the comments that were coming in actually were made prior to the goal. So I'm not going to bring in any of those ones up because, it wasn't great. And as I said before, there wasn't a mammoth amount of talking points. I do want to talk about the three additions to the team, the three changes to the team individually. So let's start with Bernabe, right? Now, Stephen Sloan came in, very poor first half. Totally agree with that. I'm sorry, but Bernabe is not good enough, says Stephen. Our crossing has to be better. Yeah. Absolutely agree with that. Also, Kilmarnock are rank rotten. We cannot draw this game. Well, thankfully, we got the breakthrough. But a bit of criticism there on the subject of Bernabe. And Stephen McGarry comes in also to say, think Bernabe has just put the debate to bed on why Ange didn't pick him against them. Rotten. Right. I'm going to come to yourself first, Laura. You've obviously got the benefit of the fact that Bernabe was, ultimately involved in the goal. Secondary assist he'll get for that. And it was a brilliant pass. But overall, if we're going to be looking at the three guys that have come in from the Ibrox game, what do you reckon of Bernabe's first half performance?
Listen, I think to be fair to the viewers that made those comments, it's very easy to sit here and change your opinion based on events that happened before or since they made those comments. Those comments are as valid now as they were before the goal. Just because he was involved in the goal doesn't mean that for the majority of the first half he wasn't pretty poor, because I think he was. He's far from the only one, but as you say, when you're looking at the three players who came in from the Ibrox game, you're looking for them in particular to prove why they've been brought in and really seize the opportunity. And he certainly, up until the goal, although he was a massive part of that and he played well, and when he was involved in it, he didn't do much to foster confidence. And if anything, he's made people like myself and like others who were maybe not massive fans of Greg Taylor in the first instance sort of change their tact on that, and which I think is entirely fair. Going back to what Kevin said about the goal, though, a lot of people say, it was a bit of luck. It ricocheted off Jota and in, and Kyogo missed the opportunity. But to back up the point that Kevin made, you make your own luck in those situations. If you don't have Jota also going for that ball and attacking that post, then maybe he's not there for it to bounce off him and in. It's an old football cliche that they say, but it is true. It's a cliches are all based in truth, and that you've got to be in the right position for the good things to happen, and that's exactly what happened. It will take all the fortune in the world, but you make your own luck in these situations, and I think that's exactly what we've done.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, fair point. Anybody commenting on Bernabe minus that secondary assist, I don't think we're way off the mark. He's not been phenomenal, but Celtic have been poor. And let's bring in some of the other comments. Autumn Glow made our best player so far. Well, I say Celtic have been poor. I think Celtic have lacked creativity, and in particular in the final third. I think there's an issue with the balls into the box have not been good enough, but I take on board the fact that, your wingers are now linking up with two new fullbacks. We're used to Greg Taylor at left back. We're used to Juranovic or Ralston at right back. And some of the relationships between the players and the wingers have, they've been built over a period of months. Now we've got new partnerships in there. And it doesn't look at the moment as though they have clicked, Kevin. Is it as simple as that? Because I know that the wingers have switched in the first half. Maeda and Jota have switched to try and change it up and mix it up. But again, one of the first times Maeda gets behind the fullback, he creates a goal.
Yeah, I think the issue with the partnerships that you mentioned there in the wings, it's a big one, and it's a real issue that we need to address in the coming weeks, because likely Taylor will be out for a couple of games, so Bernabe must come in, and he's got to get an understanding of whoever's in front of him, and that's the thing that's just not been there. I think Bernabe is a totally different type of fullback, again, to Greg Taylor, where I think Taylor's a far more comfortable player coming in and doing the central work, the inverted work, to call it that now. Whereas I think Bernabe wants to get up and down the line like a more traditional fullback, and I think it's different. I think it's difficult for him, to try and change his game as well, and then having to fit in with how we've been playing. So I think that's something that we'll definitely need to work on. And I think you do notice at times he's making the wrong run. It's the right run in a different system. It's the wrong run in this system, and he's getting into wrong positions that affects the way that we're playing. On the other side, I'm very comfortable and happy actually with how Johnston's come in. I think he's had a really good first half. I think he's looked really comfortable in the ball. He's adapted well to being an inverted fullback. I think it seems like he knows the role. We've seen him at times coming into the middle and even drifting out to the right, which we've seen Taylor do on the other side in different games. I don't think there's going to be much of an issue there with him fitting in and building the partnership. That's just give it a couple of games and he'll be like he's been there for a while. I think what we need in front of him then is just somebody that's going to be consistent, because we've had players coming in and out in the right hand side in particular over the last few games, And even today, Jota's got the goal. He was unconvincing for me at times up until then. He didn't really manage to take his man on too much on the right-hand side. He was coming in, his space was being closed down. So I think it's just been a really frustrating 45 minutes. We've got the goal that we probably deserve and balance of play, but we need more out of everyone in the second half, I think, if we're going to get the type of win that I feel we should get against a team like Kilmarnock at home.
And a type of win that you predicted. Yes, absolutely. Lucy, you're commenting on YouTube. If you're watching the video and you're not subscribing yet, get on the YouTube channel and subscribe to A Celtic State of Mind. Every single day you will get Celtic content, exclusively Celtic. And we are growing the channel, because what happens if we grow the channel, we are able to invest in better content, interviews, guests, events, etc. So Lucy, great time to get a goal, being positive. Yeah, it is a great time, and it will knock the stuffing out of Kilmarnock, who were pretty resolute in their approach to the game, which you expected them to be. And you expect us to come out in the second half, Laura, and approach the game slightly differently or with different personnel. Will there be any changes at halftime?
I don't know off the top of my head what changes you could make that would really make a huge difference, or whether you just keep going and try and get that second goal. The only one that's kind of jumping out at me is potentially bringing O'Reilly on, perhaps for Moy, for a little bit of dynamism in the midfield. But again, Moy has had a fairly decent game, I would say, in terms of breaking up Kilmarnock's play and winning the ball back in certain situations. So there's advantages to keeping him on the pitch as well. It's a difficult one. It's kind of one of these stalemate things that you think, is it just going to be a case of Kilmarnock are working very, very hard right now, they'll eventually tire and we'll break them down again, or do we have to change things up? My suspicion is that Ange will do what Ange does and keep going and doing what he's doing until later on in the second half before he makes any changes. But that change of O'Reilly for Moy is the only one I would consider if you were looking at, trying to get that second goal, because I don't think any of the front three particularly look like they're in a position where you would say they have to be hooked for any reason. Kyogo, although he didn't score that goal, obviously played a part in pressurising the goalkeeper and making sure that when the ball broke to Jota, he had the chance to put it in. But yeah, no, I think that's the only change I would think about making, and I'm pretty sure that's how Ange is going to play things, because as we all know, he doesn't tend to let the opposition dictate how we play the game.
Yeah, for sure, Kevin. I was going to get on to Moy. I don't think he's had a bad first half, but in terms of the team and trying to craft open opportunities in the final third, it does seem like a decision that might be made at some point to bring off Moy and bring on O'Reilly, or indeed David Turnbull, who's sitting on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, I would look at that and go, I don't think anyone's had a particularly bad first half, but I don't think anyone's had a particularly good first half. I think the way we're playing this game, we're dominating it, and we can keep on doing what we're doing, and I think we'll win the game. But we might not get it as comfortable as we wanted to win it. So at some point, a change will need to be made. And the obvious place for me probably is in the midfield. It could be a toss-up between Moy or Hatate for me as to who would come off. Partly because of what Laura said there as well. Moy's maybe the obvious choice, but his defensive work has been pretty good. So you could keep him on for his defensive play. You take Hatate off and you get the dynamism and the speed of thought of O'Reilly on that way. Potentially, you also get to move Moy back and Callum McGregor forward. So there's another change you can make without having to make a sub. But I think it'll come at some point in the second half. You'll make that change. You'll bring new legs, fresh legs, new ideas, hopefully, into the midfield. And as it goes on, I'm pretty sure he'll probably make a change out wide as well. You'll get Abada coming on, maybe James Forrest, someone like that as well, just to freshen it up. I don't think he'll rush into making any changes, but I think he'll probably be going in there just now, going through the players a little bit and telling them that they do need to pick up the intensity, the urgency again, so that at the start of the second half, we actually make the most of getting that goal.
Yeah, for sure. Jota on the wing. Absolutely. We're just glad that we got the breakthrough. And Jungle Line, we have been a bit flat today. Now, David is asking whether we're going to be debating a handball penalty for Kilmarnock. Surely you're not discussing the Jota one where the arm is by his side. It's part of the silhouette, as we are now describing it. But if you want to talk about it for a whole week, David, go into the sister channel, which is also called Acsom with a K, and I'm sure you can talk all about that with your fellow Kilmarnock fans. So thanks everybody for getting involved in the comment section. Let's hope for a better, more entertaining second half. All that's left for me to say is thank you again, Kevin McCluskey and Laura Bradburn, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.